shown at the Super Bowl. Crickets. There's two commercials we're going to watch. And part of it is the first one we're going to watch is the Apple, the really famous Apple 1984 commercial, which launched the Macintosh. And it was hugely successful. We're not going to spend a lot of time decoding that ad. If you want to learn a lot more about that, we did a whole episode over in the Empire Builders podcast. Go over and check out episode 71 and you'll learn all the details of how successful that campaign was, how it came about to be and whatnot.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing. Along comes 1985, Jobs is gone, Scully's running the joint, and they create an ad, Lemmings ad, that they run at the Super Bowl, and it has similar sound, similar shooting, same announcer, similar ending to it, and it bombs. So what we're going to do is watch those two commercials. And then, Matthew, I'm going to ask you, why did Lemmings bomb when 1984 blew the doors off? What's the difference between the two? So let's have people watch these two ads.
All right.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of vain contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Now, Lemmings, a year later, same idea, shown at Super Bowl, just like 1984 was shown in the Super Bowl. Shown at the Super Bowl. Crickets.
On January 23rd, Apple Computer will announce the Macintosh Office. You can look into it, or you can go on with business as usual.
So what do you think?
I don't even know what to say. You know what? I remember the ad. And yeah, like you're right. Similar tonality. The feel between the two ads is similar. It's the same.
Right.
As far as like styling, visual creative, the idea of oppressed to be liberated. But your question to me is, what's different?
What's different? Why did Lemmings fail? And I believe there's two reasons behind it. I'll give you the first one. The first one is 1984 worked really, really well. And we've talked about this. Now we're talking about it for the third time.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of the mystery.
Right.
So that mystery was what, so when you go to do something the second time, you can't rely on mystery to carry you through the story because people, oh, that's an Apple commercial. As soon as it starts, that's an Apple commercial.
Very fair.
Where 1984 was, what is this advertising?
Right.
So now that's not a fail. That's not why it failed, although it contributed to it not being as powerful.
Right.
Because all of a sudden the mystery's gone. It's very hard to run the trick a second time. If you're running the trick a second time, you have to set up a different mystery. Like you have to do it so different that it's now still mysterious.
That's
so
right.
They didn't understand when they redid this, the power of mystery and that they didn't have that going for them.
Right.
But That's not the biggest reason why it failed.
Okay, so as a visual communicator for most of my career, my initial gut feeling is that there's a failure and a difference with the way in which the two ads transformed. And oh yeah, all right, this is
If you think about it, right, yeah, carry on that thought.
Okay, yeah,
carry
but
on
so
that thought.
so when you look at all of the oppressed, so not the guards running in 1984, not the hammer thrower, but all the audience that are being mesmerized by Big Brother. Their faces through the whole ad of this,
Yep.
just zombies doing zombie movements, right?
Yep.
And then the hammer blows up the screen and the dust is flying, and all of a sudden they're like,
Right.
and they're big and they transformed and they've been enlightened and they've been freed. And in the second ad, even the one individual who understood the message or heard the message at all, or who kind of was weirded out by the fact that I'm about to fall off a cliff, even he didn't get elated or get big or do anything different. At the end, his eye opened up. Yes, there was a little bit of color, but there was no transformation.
Bingo. There was no hope, no transformation. And this is the reason why when advertisers see an ad out there and then they try to replicate the ad and then they don't have success in it, is often because what they don't actually understand is what was so powerful in the ad.
Right.
The 1984 ad was powerful for two reasons. One, it had the mystery, but two, it had hope and transformation. And where that transformation was going to come from is this product called the Apple Macintosh.
Right.
Lemmings had no hope. Everybody kept just going off the cliff.
Right.
So there was no hope. There was no transformation. And
You know what?
that's the difference between those two ads.
And I also, we've talked about it already. The other thing that I don't think that it had was there was no shared experience as well. So like they were trying to do a shared experience by having people being humdrum and going to work and doing the same thing every day. But that's not a positive shared experience. It's not something to look forward to. That's not that hope strategy that we're talking about. But in 1984, it was directly connected to a fantastically popular, everybody had to read it in high school book.
And it was the Cold War, and there was a real fear
Right.
about this whole Big Brother thing. So that was in the psyche of the population at the
And they
time.
had no control over their situation, where people just going to work have control over the situation. They're just choosing not to now you're just making the audience feel stupid. Where the
Yes.
other one, they were actually being oppressed, and they were released from oppression by having this awesome new thing.
Right. You weren't insulting your
Right?
customer.
Like just like, hey dummies, why aren't you using our computer yet? Right? Like
Right. But it would be so easy. I can see how that happens. You go out there and you're looking around, you see an ad that works and you go, great, I'm going to take that and I'm going to repurpose that idea for my product, and it fails. And you go, I
Yeah.
don't understand. It's the same announcer and it's shot in a similar way and it's a similar thing. Except you're missing the actual key ingredient, hope and transformation,
Right.
that made the whole thing work.
yes.
And,
Yes.
and why somebody then wanted this. I want this because I want that better future. The Lemmings one is, I don't want to go off a cliff. Okay,
That's
great.
right.
I get you don't want to go off a cliff, but that's not a positive. That's
Yeah.
the avoidance of a negative.
Yeah.
And avoidance of a negative is never as strong as driving somebody to a positive.
Thank you. Wrong emotion.
Wrong emotion.
Like all day long. Wrong emotion.
And when we look at storytelling and advertising, we got to start with what is the emotional, and you and I have worked on a ton of ads together.
Right.
And it's what we always start with, what is the emotional construct that we want the person to feel? What is the emotion that we want that consumer to feel about us, about our product, about the moment, whatever that is. And
Yep.
then what you have to do is create the ads to that emotion. The place is fun, the ad has to feel fun. The place is serious, the ad has to feel serious. But whatever that emotion that we want the customer to feel, that's what we've got to tap. Hope, transformation, and hope and transformation. Look, when in doubt, hope and transformation always works. Transformation always works.
Thank you.
So when in doubt, geez, I'm not sure what we should do here. Go to that one. Here's how the customer is before. Here's how the customer is after. How do we take it through the arc and show that our product is the medium, make that happen? That one always works.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Always
and
works.
It's probably 50% or more of what we write. I mean, it's where it lands because it works. It works. And with the customer's story, and it has to be authentic to them. That'd be my favorite part of this. And thank you for doing this. You put me on the spot, and I don't like being uncomfortable, so we'll talk about that after we're off camera. But my favorite part of that is that it has to be on brand. And what they try to do is they tried to duplicate Steve Jobs' authenticity,
Yes.
and he was gone.
Well, and I also don't think Ridley Scott produced the second one, where Ridley Scott produced the first one. And last I
Right.
checked, Ridley Scott knows a little thing or two. If you don't know the name Ridley Scott, Google it.
Right. Take a look, you under rock sleeper. 100%. And that authenticity, like when we do things for our clients, it's based on who they are, what they stand for, and what they stand against. And if you're not authentic to the brand, and it just comes off as hokey.
Well, and Jobs definitely believed that the personal computer was a device that was going to lead to a better future. He had that belief. Bill Gates had that belief, or has that belief. So there is that authenticity for sure.
Right.
But I caution people, and we see this happen all the time. People will call us up and go, "Oh, you guys wrote this ad. I want one like that for me." And there'll be often a couple of reasons why it won't work. It's
Right.
like, well, that won't work for you because you're not the same as them. And not only that, here's the element that is missing. You can't just lift that stuff and rewrite it. Again, what it is all about is dial in that feeling that you want people to feel and create the story, the messaging. And if it's transformation, it's always a story because there's a beginning and an end, right?
Right.
And that's the key.